Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. My name is Brandon, and welcome to this Free State Colorado interview. The mission of Free State Colorado is to promote a culture of liberty, freedom of the individual, and a free market. Today, I'm joined by Taylor Rhodes of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, or RMGO for short. Taylor is here to tell us about an absolutely outrageous gun ban happening in Superior and Boulder County and how RMGO is fighting back. Well, Taylor, I hope you are well, and thank you for joining me this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, hey, for those who are new to the Colorado Liberty community, can you tell us a little bit about Rocky Mountain Gun Owners and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so RMGO was founded 26 years ago by a guy named Dudley Brown, and since then, RMGO has not only been the voice for gun owners, but really the voice for conservatives for those last 20 years, and we're really the only group that's been around long enough that's been able to actually do something, right? So there's a lot of groups that come and go, uh, put them up and tear them down. RMGOs has weathered the storms and been here through the good and the bad. Myself, I'm a career politico. I know that may not sound all that nice, but politics is my job. I've been doing it since really paid since I was 15, but really professionally have been doing this since 2014, 2015. I've worked all over the country. I think I'm up to 16 different states that I've worked in now on the ground. I think I've worked in 22, not necessarily being on the ground, but doing from afar and whatnot. So I'm pretty seasoned. Some of the people that you may recognize that would be on my resume would be the Republican National Convention, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, folks of that nature.
Right on, man. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad we have somebody of your caliber, somebody with your experience here in Colorado fighting for our Second Amendment rights. Because I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. I mean, for a long time now, but especially in this year in particular, with what they're doing. So what's happening in Boulder County? What's going on? Why is this different than previous years?
So last year, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 256, which opens the floodgates for an unnavigatable map of anti-gun ordinance throughout the state. So it essentially allows cities, counties, municipalities, our attorneys even say if they're in a certain water district, it could even be your HOA because certain water districts are controlled by the HOAs. Yeah, it's nuts. So in theory, this is like the most local gun ban that you could have by local tyrants. So in Boulder County, of course, they're the San Francisco of Colorado, so they're taking a hack at this first, and really. It was led by the town of Superior. We got word of this about a year ago from one of our members, Brad Walker, who was like, look, they're doing this already. We were frankly shocked that it was that quick. We figured that localities would do something in a year or two once they had a little bit more of a framework for legislation. But they really started talking about what they were going to do in July of last year. So we immediately started tracking uh, and getting open records on all of this. And what we found was this was a national led effort by Giffords, by Everytown, and by Moms Demand Action. And they were starting with the city of Superior. And ultimately, that's why we ended up leading to sue this town of Superior because they have enacted some of the most heinous gun ordinances really that I've ever seen on any level. I mean, the ordinances really read like a line out of Red Dawn.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable. I mean, talk about a coordinated action, right? Coordinated activity. They've been planning getting this preemption removed and then basically having all these bills put together by these New York lobbyists. This is how I see it, at least. Tell me if I'm wrong. And
Right?
then,
No, it is.
June June 7th came along this year, and boom. I mean, we got Louisville, we got Lafayette, we got Superior. Just recently, we've had Longmont, and now Boulder County as a whole, just all passing this cookie cutter legislation. I mean, it's not even geared or like tailored to Colorado. It's just this New York lawyers put it together as this blanket thing just to throw across the country and do their best to deprive us of our Second Amendment rights. I mean,
Yeah. So one of the most frustrating things that we saw today is actually, I think as we're having this conversation, Longmont is having a closed door meeting with lobbyists as in their city council, and they're opening it up for public discussion once that closed door meeting is over. So we've sent one of our guys down there to track that. So we'll see what comes out of Longmont. Sounds like the city of Fort Collins is considering gun bans. We've already seen this. I guess they're the town of Edgewater. They've considered gun bans. Luckily, we've been able to fight back on Edgewater's restrictions. But really, ground zero for this has been Boulder County and really Superior. And of course, Tim Howard, who is a trustee in Superior, is kind of the main culprit for a lot of this. Not to give him too much credit, but he's the main culprit for organizing. In the first meeting that they had back in August, the Everytown lobbyists were essentially praising him because they did not reach out to a city council. He reached out to them. So as soon as they got the green light from a highly liberal city council, well, I guess he's the trustee over in Superior. That kind of opened the floodgates for the rest of Boulder County. It looks like August 2nd, Boulder County is going to have their second reading. So if you live in Boulder County, show up to that August 2nd meeting. I think it's only on Zoom, which is frustrating, and they're silencing people by doing it that way. But it is on Zoom, and we actually were screened the last time through because I'm sure they saw my name or one of our guys' names, and we were one of, I think, about 6 that weren't able to speak. And of course, the majority of the people that were speaking were in support of this, and they filtered out pro-gun voices, which is very, very, very concerning.
Oh, 100%. I mean, completely anti-democratic. They only want to hear one side, presented as this united front, that it's common sense, right? I mean, that's their playbook. So I watched some of that June
Right.
7th meeting that Town of Superior had in terms where they discussed this and ultimately unanimously passed it. And it was unbelievable. So it was a Zoom meeting. It was not too surprising, right, in this post-COVID world, but a Zoom meeting. And when the meeting started, this town trustee, like city council type meeting, Dustin Williamson, who was actually a lawyer for Everytown for Gun Safety, was on the Zoom call before the meeting had even started, before they did, the roll
Right.
call and basically got the procedure, or, the procedural things they had to do to get the meeting going. So he was on there before. I mean, and I'm sure this Tim Howard, is working with him and was prepping. Everybody was being prepped before the meeting even started, before the public had a chance to see it. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to see this happen here in Colorado.
And it is, and that's ultimately why we've sued. Again, we've tracked this from the beginning. The member that we have been tracking this with is actually the member on our lawsuit, which is super cool, and he's a great guy. And we actually believe, because of the Bruin decision, that this will be a pretty easy victory. Now we want this. Frankly, we want this to go to appeals, right? So if we lose, we're sending to appeals. If they lose, they're more than likely going to send it to appeals. We actually want this to go to the appeals court because then that would have statewide implications. Now, the way that they've written their ordinances, the two things that are really interesting about their ordinances is they've taken from the state. The state law says you can only have 15 rounds or less. Their ordinance that they passed actually takes that down to 10. So if you own may have one sitting around here. If you own a Glock 17 that is, has 15 rounds in it, you're now a criminal because you have a mag that's 5 rounds over capacity. But the interesting thing about that is they've really set us up to sue, and not only to overturn their mag ban, but to potentially overturn the statewide mag ban as well.
Oh, right on, man. That would be great. That would be awesome. I mean, I think
Yeah.
a lot of people I've been talking to about what's happening in Boulder County, well, they say, well, didn't the Supreme Court, with this Bruin decision, isn't it going to be all null and void? Should we even worry about this? I mean, I know that that's going to help, and ultimately, like you said, that's part of the game plan is the Supreme Court's
Yeah.
support basically to help overturn all these laws. But I mean, it's still scary stuff. I mean, it's still, that's because that's people can still be victimized, have their guns confiscated, in the meantime, while this is all being settled in court. I mean, can you get into a little bit about why this proposal in Superior and throughout Boulder County is so scary? Like, what are some of the provisions that are really so upsetting?
So one of the biggest ones is, and not only the provision, but they sent out an email, a town-wide email to their, 14,000 people that live in their town that essentially says if you own, an assault rifle, I think they actually deemed it as an illegal weapon. If you own an illegal weapon, turn it in or have it certified, which they're claiming. So what they're doing is they're essentially saying, okay, Brandon, you own an AR-15. You need to bring that AR-15 to the sheriff's department between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. and we are going to certify that rifle for you. We're not going to take any of the records. We're not going to house that. Complete and total BS. I'm calling that. They're definitely going to house it. Why would they want you to certify it if they weren't going to do anything with that information? How would they know if you certified it if they're not going to do anything with that information? So you've effectively have gun registration. And the next thing is this isn't a passive gun grab, right? We've seen in Denver and in Boulder in the past where it has been, a lot of platitudes. It's been, okay, well, you can't have this, 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 and this, but we're not going to enforce it. I mean, Denver, they have a mag ban here, or excuse me, an assault weapons ban here. I live in Denver. All of my guns got lost in a boating accident, so I can't say, where those are. But there may or may not have been assault weapons in Denver. I'm only saying this because I'm moving out of town in the next week.
Hey, good for you, man. Get out of there.
Exactly. But this isn't a passive gun grab. They've essentially said, "Look, we're coming and taking them if you don't turn them in."
That's unbelievable. Yeah, actually, I did pull up the ordinance. I'd seen it online, and yeah, section 10.9.200 is titled seizure. Seizure. I mean, they're talking, like you said, gun registration and then seizing people's guns. Here, I'll just read this very briefly. Quote, a law enforcement officer who has probable cause to believe that a violation of this article has occurred may, in addition to taking any other action, seize the weapons or items used in said violation. Any weapon or item so seized shall be secure by the law enforcement officer in accordance with the rules of the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. I mean, this is like, like you said, Red Dawn. This is, the Soviets have invaded. What is going on? Where they're sending out these emails, turn in your guns, get them registered, confiscated, or get them out of the city. I mean, it's absolutely, it's
Right.
shocking. It's like, it's crazy. How can this be happening?
Right. And we've had a lot of members that have called and have said, "Look, we're not turning them in. We're either going to be arrested or we're going to have to move, or both." And it is terrible that they are turning law-abiding citizens essentially overnight into criminals. People that have owned guns, by the stats, law-abiding gun owners are more law-abiding than even police officers, which is kind of wild to think about. But gun owners, specifically concealed carry permit holders, are less likely to commit a crime than a police officer. And we're talking about disarming these people. I mean, we just saw in Indiana, a good guy with a gun stopped a deranged killer before he killed, multiple people. It could have been hundreds of people, could have been dozens of people. And these are the same people that are saying, I think Shannon Watts said, why are we praising someone for killing someone? What are you talking about, lady? Are you delusional? Are you an idiot? This guy, you can't legislate evil, and that's ultimately what they're trying to do. And they just can't. You can't do that. And by attempting to legislate evil, they are evil themselves.
I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. And we can't forget Johnny Hurley down in Arvada, who just
Right.
over a year ago, killed a guy out there whose purpose was to kill cops, who showed up with the shotgun, started blasting cops. And we had an armed citizen, Johnny Hurley, a hero of Old Town, put him down and save people's lives. I mean, it happens more often than people think. And not to mention out of control murder, violent crime is through the roof in Colorado, and especially in these urban areas. Potential food shortages you see on the news all the time. Obviously, the riots we experienced during the whole George Floyd situation. I mean, it's like you'd have to be crazy to give up your guns, to say, I don't need my guns.
Right.
I don't need to be protected. I mean, the police won't be there to protect you when seconds count, right? I mean, that's kind of the
Yeah, I
line.
mean,
But
give up your guns. Are you kidding? You shouldn't give up your guns. You should go buy plates and tactical helmets. I mean, what are you talking about? This is craziness that this has become the America that we live in today. That one party of our political system is forcing their ideas of no guns. That this idea that no guns is going to create a safer society. That's just idiot. It's in Looney Town. There's been no point in history that carrying a firearm for self-defense up until now was not considered. This is only taboo recently, right?
right.
So if you're a villager, in Europe, traveling from one town to another, you're crazy to not carry a gun from that town to the other because you're going to be robbed, you're going to be, whatever it might be. And now, only now, we're talking about in the last 100 years, 150 years, I guess you could say, if we've talked about, all of these restrictions on gun ownership, and classifying certain guns as military grade. Well, frankly, I'm asked all the time, Taylor, why do you need an AR-15? I tell them, look, I don't need an AR-15. I need an A-10 Warthog. But the government will only allow me to have an AR-15 right now. So by God, I'm going to have one.
Right on. Yeah, 100%. I mean, absolutely crazy. We saw what happened during the COVID lockdowns, when the citizenry is armed. Can you imagine what they would do if there was no armed people? I mean, it'd be Australia. I mean, it's
Right.
shocking that we're even having this discussion. And I really hope that people wake up, people start speaking out, people start getting involved, and people really start to do something about it. Because sure, it's starting in Boulder County, but it's coming to Denver. It's going to go everywhere else. If they win here, they're going to keep going. So we got to stop them. So Taylor, what can people do? I
Right.
mean,
And
what can people do to fight back?
well, I've heard a lot of members, and I actually was responding to some emails before getting on here with you, responding to members saying, "Oh, you're just fear mongering. This isn't ever going to happen to me. I live in a small town. Superior is 14,000 people. That's a pretty damn small town. If it's happening there, it's happening in every city across Colorado. This is not something that we can bury our heads in the sand and say, oh well, it'll be fine. No, 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 no. We have to fight back. And the biggest way to fight back right now is in the courtroom. So we have sued the town of Superior over their assault weapons, over the whole ordinance, but specifically over the assault weapons ban and over the magazine ban, because really those are the two most heinous of what they're talking about. And if you want to join the fight, I know I'm going to give Brandon a link to donate to the legal fund. This is going to be an expensive fight. There's a potential that we could take this all the way to the Supreme Court. It will be in appeals one way or another, we think. So this is a fight that is too important for people to sit on the sidelines. And please, 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 I almost beg you to get involved on the legal fight, because we can't do it without gun owners across Colorado.
Yeah, people, please donate to the legal fund. Do what you can to contribute. We got to fight this. We got to fight back. We can't let these tyrants continue to chip away at our rights. We know where that goes, and we can't allow it to happen. We got to stop tyranny and create a free state. So,
Absolutely.
well, thank you very much, Taylor. I don't want to take any more of your time. You got to hurry up and start packing up and getting out of Denver there. Good luck on your move.
Okay.
And
Exactly. Thank you.
yeah, appreciate it, and good luck, and keep us updated. Let us know what happens.
Thanks. I appreciate you, man.